Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Cafiero. Today we are going to have a pre-recorded lesson because I am at a training today, so unfortunately we cannot do our lesson live. But we are going to have our lesson. I'm going to review the reading that you're going to complete today as well as your activity. So today we are moving into a new topic where we're discussing the media. And specifically today we're going to talk about interest groups. So, our standard and essential question for today, we are going to examine the impact of media, individuals, and interest groups on monitoring and influencing the government. And our essential question, how do citizens, both individually and collectively in groups, influence government policy? So, when we're talking about impacting government policy, first we need to define what does that exactly mean? To impact means to influence the government, to persuade them or convince them to do something in your favor. So, how do we do that? Well, we do that through something called the First Amendment. Which is a very important part of our Bill of Rights, as you know. This includes our freedoms of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to peacefully assemble, and freedom to petition the government, which allows groups and individuals to contact and try and persuade the government to do something a specific way. So, when we're talking interest groups, we're talking about groups that have a specialized purpose. They form because they have a common goal or issue or group of people that they want to provide certain types of services for. They work to influence the government and other people to believe in their specific positions, and they try to influence government and society through political parties, committees in Congress, or other ways as well. Here on the right, these are just some examples of what are interest groups: the AARP, the ACLU, the Sierra Club, Wounded Warriors Project, Planned Parenthood. These are all interest groups that have a very specific idea of how certain aspects of government should be run, and they try and convince others to join their cause. There is one very special type of interest group called a Political Action Committee, or PAC, that works to raise money and campaign for candidates who support their issues. So, whenever we have a presidential election like we just had, there are certain PACs that will support certain candidates because they believe in the same goals or they have common interests. They often do this by hiring lobbyists who meet with the candidates and the lawmakers. So, lobbyists are people that work for these interest groups. Lobbyists try to get lawmakers to introduce or support legislation that the PAC cares about specifically. So, lobbying is a very powerful way that interest groups can directly influence government officials because they can talk to them directly. Interest groups also work to influence the government by educating interest groups members, so like regular people like you and me, on issues that it wants those members to support. So, an interest group has a very basic goal in mind of how they want a certain aspect of government run. They have a certain set of core beliefs. And if another issue were to come up that they want to support, they would explain to the people in that interest group and the people that are following the interest group why they should support this other cause that doesn't really have anything to do with us, but why it's a good thing. Or may not want them to support it, why it's a bad thing. So, next, we're going to talk about the media and their impact. The media is really important because it monitors the government. So, the media will include any type of print publications, such as newspapers and magazines, any broadcast media like television and radio, and of course, the internet like social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, those kind of things. The media itself uses their right to freedom of the press, protected by, of course, the First Amendment, to monitor and influence the government. The media reports stories about public officials, they give information about the government, they share current events, and they can also write opinion pieces or editorials. Through their reporting of the news, the media plays an important role in both monitoring and influencing the government. So, monitoring meaning it's just watching what the government's doing, what kind of choices they're making. Influencing, maybe they write a not so great story about a certain bill that's wanting to be passed, and it changes uh, the lawmaker's perspective or changes their decision on if they really want to support this. Sometimes the media is also seen as what's called a watchdog. And this means that the media is watching over the actions of the government officials by reporting and sharing info with the public. Now, watchdog sometimes has like a negative kind of thing with it because people feel like every little move they make is being watched and scrutinized and being looked over. And when you're in government, that's exactly true. That's exactly what's happening. Everything you do is going to be considered important. Things in your personal life and your professional life, and the media watches that. So finally, the impact on the government. So the impact that individuals, media, and interest groups have on government and their ability to influence and monitor the government, that's through voting, petitioning the government, going to meetings to making sure that you're informed, and letting the government know that we are watching them. The option to also run for office gives people, the individual, a personal chance to change things if they want to. Interest groups give us a larger way to influence and monitor the government because, as we said in one of our previous lessons, when you come together as a group and you have a certain set of beliefs or concerns, the government's more likely to listen to a large group with the same beliefs than they are the individual. And then finally, the media lets us know if the government is actually listening to us and what it is doing. Okay. So it's pretty simple as far as what these different uh, people and groups can actually do to make an impact on the government. And to make it just a little bit easier, your reading for today is uploaded with the slides in this video. This is a really short and easy summary of the impacts that the media, interest groups, and individual people have on government. It's a really great little cheat sheet to keep. Make sure you download it so you have a copy of it on your computer because it will be extremely useful when it comes time for your quiz because it's an easy summary to look over. And then for your assignment today, you are going to read a little bit more about interest groups and what they do. You're also going to learn a bit about bias and what that means. So your reading today is just one page. The second page is your activity. So the first part here is very straightforward, matching the vocabulary word with the definition. These words are in the reading. And then in the second part here, you have to decide if this statement is an activity that is informing, donating money, or endorsing a candidate running for office. So let's read number 9 together. Representatives interview a candidate to see if he or she will support the group's position on nuclear plants. If so, the group will back this candidate. So, is this an example of informing, donating money, or endorsing a candidate running for office? If you have to choose one of these three, it would be E, because it says that they will back the candidate if they have the same views as the group itself. So that would be E. If you look at number 13, it says once a candidate has been endorsed, members of an interest group help raise donations to help the candidate's campaign. Well, that's going to be D, donating money. Donations are money. Okay, so that's what 13 would be. So those are two questions there that we've done together. And then finally, the final part here, what it wants you to do is read through the groups itself, two groups, and what their beliefs are, and then it wants you to match to the answers here. Who believes what? And you're just going to draw a line to match that. Okay, so if you edit this in Kami, it should be fairly simple. You just use the text box and you use the draw line. If you decide to use Google Docs to type in your answers, please make sure that things are numbered correctly and that for the bottom here, you're copying and pasting the entire thing and putting it together. So if you copy the NRA and what they do, then after that, you should say matches to or equals whichever the answer are. whichever the answer is, sorry, whichever one it matches to. Okay. So just make sure that if you're using Google Docs to put your answers, you're being very clear about what the answers are for each question. Okay. Highly recommend using Cami. If you need help on how to use Cami and how to save your work, I have a video that I've already recorded that I can send you to help you with that. If you have any questions as you are working or any concerns, please let me know via email.